I never thought I'd feel a shock like this in my own life. One moment, everything seemed normal, comfortable, predictable, even safe. And the next, it was like someone had yanked the rug out from under me. My ex-husband, the man I had trusted with my heart, got married again. Just like that. Suddenly. Almost too suddenly to be believable. I first heard about it through a mutual friend, someone who probably thought they were helping. "Have you seen the pictures?" they asked casually, and my world stopped. I laughed at first, nervously. I told myself it was a rumor, a miscommunication. Surely he couldn't have moved on that quickly. We had been married for years, shared dreams, shared late nights, shared conversations that stretched into the early hours when the world outside was quiet and nothing else seemed to matter. How could it be over so fast? And yet, there it was, a wedding announcement, photos of him smiling with someone else, someone who was now officially his wife. When I looked at the pictures, my chest tightened. It wasn't jealousy, at least not exactly. It was confusion, disbelief, a deep, knowing sense that something was terribly wrong. Have you ever felt that? The feeling that the ground beneath you isn't steady anymore, that the people you thought you knew, really knew, might not be who you believed them to be. That's what it felt like. Something in me whispered, quietly at first, then louder, that this wasn't just life moving on. Something had shifted in a way I wasn't prepared for. I scrolled through the photos again, and this time, I noticed the details, the way he looked at her. Not with the kind of warmth or love I remembered feeling from him, but with a calm certainty, almost as if he belonged there with her, in a way that left no room for the past, and her smile, it was perfect. Almost too perfect. Practiced and poised. The kind of smile that hides something beneath it. My stomach churned as I realized how small I felt, how invisible, and I kept asking myself why her. How could this have happened so fast? Was I blind to everything before the divorce? Did I miss the signs that were there all along? Even my friends noticed. "Are you okay?" they asked, eyes soft with concern, and I forced a smile, told them I was fine, nodded like it was true. But inside, I felt like I was unraveling. Every little memory I had of him, the late-night talks, the quiet moments when the world felt like it belonged only to us, suddenly seemed fragile, like they could crumble with a single word or glance. And I started questioning everything. Had he ever really loved me? Or was I just a chapter he finished and closed without looking back? I tried to reach out to him, to make sense of the whirlwind that had become my life, but even that was impossible. His voice on the phone was polite, calm, almost distant, like he had practiced every word. And the tone, the one that had once made me feel safe and cherished, was gone. Replaced with a quiet finality that left no room for me, for us, for any lingering connection. My hands shook as I hung up, realizing that whatever thread of intimacy we had shared was now severed, irreparable. And then came the moments I couldn't explain. Small flashes that haunted me, glimpses of social media posts, vague captions that hinted at inside jokes, photos from trips I didn't know about, celebrations I wasn't invited to. My heart twisted each time I saw them together. Something about the way he smiled at her, the way they interacted, felt off. Not wrong in the way someone is malicious, but wrong in the sense that it didn't belong to the story I thought I was part of. I wanted to understand it, to rationalize it, to tell myself I was overreacting. But I couldn't. I remembered our last months together, trying desperately to keep the marriage alive. The quiet tension that had built, the late-night arguments we tried to laugh off. The fleeting moments of closeness that I now realized were him holding on to what was about to end. And in hindsight, I could see the patterns I had ignored. The subtle signs that something was happening behind my back. Signs that didn't make sense at the time, but now they screamed the truth. Sometimes, when I'm alone, I try to replay the moment I first saw the wedding announcement. I remember staring at the screen for what felt like hours, my mind spinning, my chest heavy, the photos blurred as I blinked rapidly, refusing to accept what I was seeing. I kept telling myself, maybe it's a mistake. Maybe the date is wrong. Maybe they're just friends. But my instincts, those little whispers I had ignored for months, screamed at me. Something was wrong. Something I couldn't name, couldn't fully understand, but could feel with every fiber of my being. And then came the questions I can't stop asking myself. Was there someone else? When did it start? Did he ever truly love me? Was I naive, blind to the obvious? Or worse, had someone else I trusted been part of this all along? The thought is like ice in my veins, chilling me to the bone. And yet, I can't stop thinking about it. I tried distracting myself. Work, friends, errands, anything to keep my mind from spiraling. But every notification, every little ping on my phone made my heart leap and sink at the same time. Because I knew that sooner or later, I would see them again. And something deep inside me whispered, over and over, that I wouldn't be able to look away. That when the moment came, I would have to face a truth I wasn't ready for. And a few days ago, that moment arrived. I saw something, just a fleeting detail, a small gesture. But it stopped me in my tracks. I couldn't understand it fully, and I couldn't explain it to anyone without sounding crazy. But I knew, without a doubt, that this was only the beginning. Something was unfolding, something I hadn't seen coming, something that would change everything. I didn't know how to describe the feeling, the mix of fear, confusion, and anticipation that makes your stomach twist in knots. But I do know this. Whatever I saw that day, whatever subtle clue I caught out of the corner of my eye, it was enough to tell me that my life as I knew it was about to be shattered. And I had no idea how deep this would go, or who else might be involved. And in the back of my mind, I couldn't stop thinking about her. The one I laughed with, shared secrets with, trusted more than anyone. Could she know? It couldn't be. Could she be part of this? The thought made my chest tighten in ways I hadn't felt before. Even now, just thinking about it, I feel my stomach churn. Every flashback, every late-night conversation, every gesture I had ignored before, it all seemed connected, like pieces of a puzzle I wasn't ready to see. I tried to push the thought away, to focus on something else. But my curiosity gnawed at me. Every photo, every caption, every small interaction I noticed online seemed to hint at a truth I didn't want to face. And yet, it was there, whispering in every detail. This wasn't just about him moving on. Something, or someone, was orchestrating it. I knew in that moment that I had to be careful. Watch, observe, notice. Because whatever was happening, it wasn't random. And one day, I would see the pieces come together. And when I do, I'll never be able to unsee it. I couldn't stop thinking about what I had seen. The images, the gestures, the subtle signs, they played over and over in my mind like a broken record. Every time I tried to push them away, they returned stronger, sharper, like a whisper I couldn't ignore. And the more I thought, the more doubt settled in. Could I really have missed something so obvious? Or was it just my imagination, twisting reality to hurt me further? He had always been calm, polite, easy to read, or so I thought. But after seeing her, the way he seemed to respond to her, I started remembering the times he had been distant. The nights he came home late, the way he laughed at things I didn't understand. Things I had brushed off as work stress or fatigue suddenly seemed like signs. Tiny cracks in the reality I had believed in. And every memory I revisited left me with a gnawing unease I couldn't shake. I began noticing other subtle things, patterns I hadn't seen before, social media posts with vague captions, photos from trips I hadn't been invited to, moments when he seemed to disappear for hours and couldn't explain where he'd been. At first, I told myself I was overreacting. Anyone in my place would feel this, I reasoned. I was letting grief and shock cloud my judgment. But deep down, I knew it wasn't just shock. Something was wrong. Something was being hidden. Even friends noticed the change in me. "You seem distracted," one said softly. I smiled and nodded, saying I was fine. But I wasn't. Every little thing reminded me that the life I had trusted might never have been what I thought. And the thought that someone I had trusted, someone I loved, might be hiding something, quietly manipulating events, it was unbearable. I started to question myself constantly. Had I imagined the closeness between him and her? Were the small moments I'd dismissed, laughs, glances, gestures, actually part of something I hadn't seen? Or worse, had I ignored the signs because I didn't want to believe them? The more I tried to reason, the less I felt certain. And the doubt didn't just stay in my mind, it gnawed at my chest, made it hard to breathe, made sleep impossible. At night, I replayed conversations with him. The moments that seemed innocent at the time. The way he sometimes smiled a little too knowingly at his phone. The way he laughed at jokes I didn't get. The times he seemed distant or distracted. All of it, I realized, now hinted at something more, a connection, subtle and hidden, that I hadn't recognized until it was too late. And then there was her. Something about her online presence, the way she moved through photos and posts, seemed too smooth, too familiar. Little inside jokes, gestures, moments that didn't belong to someone new. A shared glance in a photo. A caption with a cryptic hint, a subtle smirk. It was almost imperceptible to anyone else, but I noticed, and the more I noticed, the more uneasy I felt. Could it be that she knew him before? Could it be that she had been close to him all along, closer than I'd realized? I began questioning my own judgment. Had I been blind? Or naive? Or was it worse, that I had been intentionally deceived? And the thought of someone orchestrating this behind my back, quietly positioning herself, made my stomach twist. Every memory, every interaction I had dismissed now felt like a breadcrumb trail leading somewhere I wasn't ready to go. I tried to distract myself. Work, errands, anything to avoid the spiral of thoughts. But it was useless. Every notification, every social media ping, every little flash of them together reminded me that I hadn't been imagining it. There was a pattern. And patterns, I realized, are never accidental. Some nights, I caught myself going through old messages and pictures, searching for clues. I wanted proof, anything tangible that I wasn't losing my mind. But even as I searched, every new detail seemed to raise more questions. Inside jokes, photos from places I hadn't known they went, celebrations I wasn't invited to, all of it pointed to a reality I had never expected. And slowly, a terrifying realization settled in. It wasn't just that he had moved on. It wasn't just that I was no longer part of his life. Someone had been closer to him than I realized. Someone who had all the knowledge, all the access, all the trust I had freely given. And the thought of who it could be made my heart race and my stomach churn. I remembered moments with her, laughs we shared, secrets we whispered, conversations late into the night. I had trusted her completely. I had leaned on her, confided in her, thought of her as a sister. And now, when I considered the possibility that she might be involved in this, the betrayal felt almost unbearable. My best friend, the person I had believed would never hurt me, might have been part of this quietly from the beginning. I couldn't be sure yet. That uncertainty, that knowing doubt, was the hardest part. Every small interaction between him and her online made me question everything I had thought I knew. Was it coincidence? Was it intentional? And the more I watched, the more I realized that whatever was happening, it wasn't random. My anxiety built into a constant hum. I started noticing patterns in their posts I hadn't before. Subtle cues, gestures, captions that seemed harmless but hinted at inside knowledge. My chest ached as I pieced these tiny clues together. The picture was slowly emerging, and I didn't know if I was ready to face it. I began questioning my friends too. Did they see something I didn't? Did they know something I wasn't aware of? I felt surrounded by whispers, hidden meanings, coincidences that now felt deliberate. And the thought that someone close to me might have orchestrated this, or at least benefited from it, made my stomach twist. And then the flashbacks hit me in waves. Every moment from the last months of our marriage, every subtle lie, every distracted look, it all started to make sense in a way I hadn't wanted it to. Every detail I had ignored, brushed off, or justified was suddenly screaming a truth I couldn't deny. I remembered the day he came home late, nervous, distracted, avoiding eye contact. I had let it slide, thinking it was stress. But now I realized it might have been a small thread in the larger web, a sign that he was already emotionally entangled elsewhere, and her. Small comments on social media, gestures in photos, moments I had dismissed, they suddenly took on new meaning. Too many coincidences stacked together to ignore. And the gnawing, sickening feeling in my gut told me what I was afraid to admit: someone I trusted had been too close to this entire time. The suspense, the doubt, the anxiety. It all became unbearable. I felt trapped in my own thoughts, like a spectator watching a story I was no longer part of. And as I pieced together the breadcrumbs, the unease settled into something colder: fear. Fear that the person I had loved and trusted, someone I had confided in completely, might have been orchestrating this quietly all along, and the thought of confronting it, of seeing the truth face to face, made me tremble. And I knew, deep down, that sooner or later I would. The moment was coming. The moment I would have to face the full reality of everything, including the one person I had never suspected. The days after my realization were unbearable. Every time I stepped outside, every time I ran an errand, every time I went somewhere familiar, I felt like I was walking into a trap I hadn't noticed before. The world seemed the same, but I was seeing it differently. Every detail, every interaction, every glance felt like a hidden message, and all I could think about was her. I tried to avoid places where I might run into them, tried to keep myself distracted with work, with friends, with anything. But life has a way of cornering you at the worst possible moment. And one Saturday, it happened. I hadn't planned to go anywhere near the part of town I knew they frequented. But somehow, call it fate, call it coincidence, I found myself there, turning a corner, and froze. There they were, he and her. Laughing close, familiar in a way that made my chest tighten and my stomach twist. He reached for her hand, brushing his fingers over hers like it was the most natural thing in the world. She smiled at him, a smile that was effortless and yet, in a way, terrifying. Calm, poised, perfect. And something in that smile, that little tilt of her head, sent a chill straight through me. I wanted to run, to disappear, but my feet were frozen. I couldn't look away. Every step they took together, every subtle gesture, made flashbacks hit me in waves. The nights he came home late, distracted, nervous. The little half-truths he told me about work, about friends, about nothing at all. The private jokes he laughed at, the way his attention seemed elsewhere sometimes. Every small detail I had ignored for months suddenly made sense, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. And then the memories of her hit me. Small moments, almost insignificant at the time, things I had laughed at, shared secrets with, trusted completely. Every moment I had confided in her, every late-night conversation, every laugh and tear we shared, it all felt like a setup, a pathway I hadn't noticed until now. And the realization shook me. Could she have been closer to him all along than I had ever imagined? I looked at them, trying desperately to find a clue that I might be imagining it. But no, the closeness was real. The gestures, the laughter, the familiarity, they weren't accidental. My mind raced, trying to process it. All the subtle signs I had dismissed as coincidence suddenly screamed betrayal. And it wasn't just random, it was deliberate. My chest tightened, my heart pounding, my stomach twisting into knots. I felt sick, but I couldn't look away. Every small smile, every casual touch, every glance between them was a reminder that something I had trusted completely had been taken from me. Slowly, painfully, I realized that I wasn't just witnessing a new relationship. I was witnessing the culmination of a betrayal I hadn't fully understood yet. I remembered moments with her, moments I had dismissed at the time. How she always seemed to know what he was going to do. How she laughed at his jokes the way only someone very familiar with him could. How she, coincidentally, appeared at places he went. I had laughed those off as harmless coincidences, naive and trusting as I was. But now, standing there, watching them together, the truth hit me like a punch. She had been close enough, knowledgeable enough, to orchestrate this quietly, subtly, without me ever suspecting. And suddenly, the memories weren't harmless anymore. The times he seemed distant, the nights he worked late, the little gestures I didn't understand, all of it fell into place. And she had been there the whole time, quietly, patiently, waiting, watching, using my trust to position herself where she could. My stomach turned over, bile rising, my mind reeling from the enormity of what I was realizing. I tried to focus on breathing, on something grounding, but I couldn't. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to flee, to erase what I was seeing. But I was rooted to the spot. I couldn't unsee it, and the closer I looked, the more my heart sank. He looked at her in ways I had once believed were reserved for me. The intimacy, the comfort, the subtle gestures, they weren't just physical. They were emotional, deeply familiar, something only someone who had been close to both of us could share. I wanted to confront them, to scream, to demand answers, but I couldn't move. My body refused, my mind refused. It was like I was watching someone else's life unfold, and I had no power to stop it. And then, the realization struck me harder than anything else: this wasn't just about him. This was about her. The one I had trusted. The one I had loved like a sister. The one I had shared my life with in ways no one else had ever known. And now, she was standing there, perfectly poised, perfectly calm, quietly enjoying the life I thought was mine. My heart hammered, my chest aching, my vision narrowing as I tried to process it. Every laugh, every gesture, every glance between them screamed a story I wasn't ready to hear. And all the while, she seemed oblivious, or maybe aware, I couldn't tell. Which made it worse. The thought that she might have known I was watching, that she might have orchestrated this knowing exactly the effect it would have, made my stomach twist tighter than ever. Flashbacks hit me in rapid succession. The small favors, the late-night talks, the advice she had given me, the moments she had leaned on me, everything seemed to have a hidden purpose I hadn't considered. And as the truth slowly crystallized, a cold, undeniable thought settled in my chest. She had used our closeness, my trust, to get here. To take something I hadn't even realized could be taken. And yet, even in that fear, that horror, there was clarity. I understood now why I had ignored certain gut feelings, why some moments had felt off. I had been blind, lulled by trust, distracted by love. And now, watching them together, every instinct screamed at me that this was intentional, calculated, deliberate. I wanted to scream, to run, to vanish, but I couldn't. My eyes were locked on them, on him, on her. And then, she glanced slightly in my direction. Not a full look, just a subtle tilt of the head, a flicker of acknowledgement. Enough to tell me she knew I was there. Enough to tell me that my worst fears weren't just paranoia, they were real. My heart raced uncontrollably. My hands shook, my chest tightened, my stomach twisted. The betrayal I had only felt in flashes, in hints and suspicions, had become almost tangible, and I realized, with a mixture of dread and heartbreak, that the moment of truth, the face behind the betrayal, was about to arrive. I took a step back, my mind spinning. The pieces I had ignored, the signs I had dismissed, the sleepless nights I had spent piecing them together, it was all leading here. And I knew, deep down, that I wasn't ready for what I was about to see. But there was no turning back. Everything I had sensed, every suspicion, every creeping doubt, every uneasy instinct, it was all coming to a head. And the moment was almost upon me. I stood there, frozen. Heart pounding to so hard, I thought it might burst from my chest. Every instinct screamed at me to turn away, to pretend I hadn't seen what I was about to see. But I couldn't. Something deep inside me demanded that I face it, that I see the truth, no matter how much it hurt. She stepped closer, slowly, deliberately, and then it happened. Her face came into full view. It was her, my best friend, the person I had trusted above all others, the one I had confided in, laughed with, cried with, shared my deepest secrets. She was standing there, smiling calmly, perfectly composed, as if nothing had ever happened. And yet everything had. My stomach twisted, my chest tightened, and a wave of disbelief crashed over me. I couldn't breathe at first. I wanted to scream, to run, to erase the image from my mind, but my feet were rooted to the ground. Every flashback, every gut feeling, every small warning I had ignored over the past months, suddenly collided in my brain. Every subtle gesture she had made, every laugh, every coincidence, now made horrifying sense. He looked at her the way he used to look at me. The quiet affection, the familiarity, the warmth. It was all there, directed at someone else. And it cut me deeper than any words could. The intimacy we once shared, the gestures I had believed were ours alone, were now theirs. Every instinct I had ignored, every warning I had brushed off, every red flag I had dismissed, it had all been real. And she had been there all along, quiet, patient, deliberate, using my trust, my openness, My love for her to position herself where she could take what was mine. The betrayal wasn't just in him moving on. It was in her. My best friend. The person I had loved like a sister, the person I had relied on more than anyone, had been part of this from the very beginning. Memories flooded back. Late night talks, shared secrets, moments of laughter, tears, and vulnerability. Moments I had believed were signs of friendship, of loyalty. But now I realized they had been tools, pieces of a carefully constructed path that led to this moment. And the weight of that realization hit me like a punch straight to the chest. I felt everything at once: heartbreak, anger, disbelief, and a strange, searing clarity. The clarity of knowing. Of finally seeing the truth in the stark light of day. The lessons I had ignored, the gut feelings I had pushed aside, the subtle unease I had rationalized away, they were all valid. I had been played. I had been blind. But now I could see. And yet, even in that pain, there was strength. I realized something important: she might have taken him, but she hadn't taken me. She hadn't stolen my ability to see, to feel, to trust myself. The betrayal was devastating, yes, but it was also freeing in a way I hadn't expected. Because now that I knew the truth, I could no longer be fooled. I could no longer ignore the warning signs. I could no longer give my trust blindly. I looked at them one last time. He smiled at her, and she returned it, their connection undeniable, intimate, unbreakable in that moment. And I felt a mix of sorrow and rage, grief and relief. Sorrow for the love I had lost. Rage at the deception. Grief for the friendship that had been twisted into betrayal. And relief that I could finally stop wondering, stop questioning, stop being in the dark. I walked away slowly, each step heavy with the weight of heartbreak and clarity. With every step, I felt a little stronger, a little more myself. I realized that betrayal, no matter how devastating, can teach you things you never wanted to learn. It can show you your own strength, your own boundaries, your own instincts. And I was determined to take that lesson with me. As I walked, tears welled in my eyes, not just for the pain, but for the truth I had uncovered. I had learned, in the harshest way possible, that trust can be weaponized. That people you love most can hurt you in ways you never imagined. And that clarity, no matter how painful, is more powerful than ignorance. I want anyone watching this to remember something: betrayal can come from the people you trust most. It can be subtle, quiet, invisible to anyone else. But it is still devastating, and it can teach you your own power. If you've ever experienced something like this, I want you to comment below. Share your story, your thoughts. How would you have reacted in my place? How would you have faced the person you trusted most, standing right in front of you? And if you know someone who understands betrayal, share this story with them. Sometimes, hearing that you're not alone is the first step toward healing. Looking back now, I can see the signs I missed. The subtle manipulation, the quiet presence, the hidden intentions. And while it hurts to know how close it came to destroying me completely, there is also relief in understanding, because now I know, and knowing gives me power. She may have taken him. She may have shattered a friendship I thought unbreakable. But she hasn't taken me. I'm still here. Breathing, standing, learning, recovering. And one day, the pain will fade, not completely, perhaps, but enough to remind me that I survived, that I endured, that I can move forward stronger than before. Betrayal Uncovered isn't just my story. It's a reminder that even in the darkest moments, the truth eventually comes to light. That even when someone you love most betrays you, you can find clarity, strength, and courage. And you can rise above it. So tell me what you think. Comment below, share your opinion. And if you know someone who understands the pain of betrayal, share this story with them. Sometimes the hardest stories teach the most. And sometimes sharing them is the first step toward healing. Because in the end, the truth is painful. But it's also freeing. And learning to face it head on is the only way to reclaim your life, your strength, and your heart.